Hey guys, tonight we descend into the belly of an ancient jungle pyramid, where the walls sweat with centuries of silence and something old waits behind stone. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a gaping limestone Mayan entrance that hasn't seen sunlight since the classic Maya abandoned it over 1,000 years ago. Thick vines droop like spider webs, mosquitoes hum in your ears. Somewhere, something howls, but it's too far away to matter. Maybe you're here because archaeologists found a stairway sealed behind a false wall now. Not like a Scooby-Doo bookcase trick. This one was layered brick by brick, mortared with clay, and then plastered over to blend perfectly with the interior of the pyramid. It wasn't supposed to be found. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is. I love seeing just how far this little sleepy corner of history reaches. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The sealed stairway is steep, narrow, and lined with sweat-slick walls. Your flashlight beam glances off something painted red glyphs, faded almost to nothing. Snake across the plaster. You try to follow the shapes, but the corridor keeps pulling you deeper. And then the stairway just ends. Flat stone, solid wall. You run your fingers across it, cold, dry, unmoving. But under the beam of your light, faint lines emerge. Cut. Stone, not natural. This is another seal. When this tomb was originally discovered, Temple XX, in the Maya city of Palenque, archaeologists nearly missed this passage. Only a hairline crack in the floor of the temple gave it away. Beneath it, they found a buried staircase filled with rubble and sealed shut from above and below, which, if you think about it, is either very respectful or very afraid. Historians still argue whether the Maya believed tombs were protective sanctuaries or ticking traps for the living. This one seems to want both. With modern tools, you chip away the final stones. You're careful. It's a sacred site, after all. But with each chunk of rubble you lift, warm air exhales from the gap. It smells old, like rain trapped in stone, like dust that once breathed. When the final slab falls away, your light touches the edge of something gleaming, polished stucco, still red with hematite. Glyphs curl across the surface like snakes in mid-dream. This is the tomb chamber's threshold. You're standing in front of the final door. Maya tombs aren't like Egyptian ones. No golden coffins. No antechambers with neatly labeled jars. Instead, they're more intimate, personal. You'll often find offerings stacked at the feet of the dead. Corn, jade beads, stingray spines. Pots full of tamales, yes, really, and sometimes chocolate, though not the kind you want in your mug. The Maya drank it bitter and spicy, laced with chili, and thick enough to chew. Your fingers tremble a little as you press against the door. Nothing happens. No hiss of curses. No trapdoors. No ghost. Just quiet. But when you lean in closer, you spot it, a narrow seam, just wide enough for a chisel. The final seal cracks with a soft puff of stale air, and you slide the panel open inside. The tomb is smaller than you imagined. No larger than a walk-in closet, but every inch is painted, carved, or studded with relics. Red dominates. Cinnabar dust, deadly mercury sulfide, coats the walls and floor like powdered blood. And at the center, raised on a platform of stone, lies the sarcophagus. It's a simple stone box. No intricate gold work, no glowing amulets, just the silhouette of something ancient and heavy, and a jade death mask resting where the head should be. And yes, that's the moment you feel the first shiver. Not from cold, from recognition. Because the glyphs near the lid don't just speak of death. They speak of return, of a queen whose soul could move between worlds. The name scratched across the upper lip of the tomb is hard to translate, but scholars believe it refers to a figure known as Lady Kaabel, or someone just like her. A queen of both divine and military power. Not a consort, not a puppet, a bloodline carrier, a bone-deep warrior. That's when the crackling starts. Not from the stone, from your walkie. Static flickers through the speaker, then cuts. You try to reply, but all you get is a pop of feedback, and a short, breathy click like someone sighed into the mic. You brush it off, of course. Could be interference. Could be atmospheric pressure. Could be that the Maya built their tombs like wombs meant to isolate the soul from the noise of the living. But you're not leaving. Not yet. You kneel at the base of the sarcophagus and place your hands on the edge. You feel something shift beneath your palm. Not movement, just warmth. And not from the stone. That's when you spot it. A single footprint. Tiny, bare, and still pressed into the cinnabar dust. Not centuries old. Not even days. It's recent. Impossible. Unless someone came in after. The tomb was opened. or never left. You stand, trying not to disturb the print, but the dust swirls anyway, fine grains lifting, as if caught in breath. You shine your light again and notice something scratched into the plaster just beside the entrance. It's not glyphs, not Maya at all. It's modern. Someone carved the word iuta, help into the wall with a fingernail, and you feel the breath. Again, only this time. It's not yours. You don't turn around. You tell yourself that breath was just airflow, some trick of pressure in a sealed room. Finally, disturbed, still, you move slowly, 1 foot at a time, as if the dust itself might whisper what happened here. You approach the sarcophagus again. This time, you kneel at its side and sweep away some of the cinnabar dust. Your gloves turn orange-red instantly because the stuff stains everything, including lungs. Maya priests used it ceremonially, believing it was sacred, but also knowing surely that it was toxic. Burials in elite tombs were often saturated with it. Historians still argue whether they used it purely for spiritual reasons, or as an early form of microbial warfare against tomb robbers. The stone lid is carved with a scene faint worn, but still there. A woman stands on a mountain, her arms raised toward a skeletal serpent descending from the sky. You recognize the vision serpent, that great cosmic creature used to connect rulers with their ancestors. But something's off. The woman wears a warrior's skirt, not a queen's robe. A blade juts from her hip. And strangest of all, there's no king beside her. You place your palms on the lid and push. It grates, just a little, then lifts. Stone is heavy, but fear makes you stronger than you'd like to admit. With effort, you shift the top just enough to peek inside. There she is, dotted first. It's just outlines. A tangle of bone swaddled in crimson silk, so faded it looks like withered petals. Jade beads are scattered around her neck and chest, hundreds of them, forming a collar like a necklace made of time. At her skull rests the jade mask, carved to mimic her face, her eyes closed in eternal ceremony. It's not ornament, it's identity. The Maya believed these masks allowed the dead to retain a face in the next world. But something about the skeleton stops you. The jaw is clenched. The fingers are curled, not relaxed, but drawn up as if gripped around something, or bracing. And then you notice the positioning. One arm is pinned underneath the ribs, as if it was moved, after death, or during dying. You scan the chamber again, near the queen's feet. An offering bowl sits cracked. Inside, you find obsidian blades and fragments of burned bone, some large, some disturbingly small. A child's, maybe. The Maya believed that blood opened the portal to the gods, and elite burials often included the bodies or parts of sacrificial victims. But the bones here are scorched, charred, and that's not common. Mainstream historians believe that sacrificial remains were placed with reverence, arranged in deliberate poses. What you're seeing looks rushed, panicked, maybe even resisted. You reach back into the sarcophagus, gently lifting one of the jade beads for a closer look. It's pierced twice, as if once strung on something more intricate than twine. As your light hits it, you see a tiny glyph carved on its underside. It's not just decoration, it's a name, likely hers. The bead drops from your fingers and hits the stone with a high, almost musical ping. The sound bounces through the tomb like a whisper in an echo chamber. You wait, still no movement, but your body doesn't relax. You decide to take a better look around the chamber. In the corner, half submerged in cinnabar, is another skull, not buried with care, tossed. Its teeth are filed into sharp points. Maya warriors sometimes did that, especially members of the HQ, the keepers of the sacred. But this one has no jewels, no headdress, just a cracked forehead and missing jaw, and something gleaming behind the sockets. You brush away the dust. It's a mirror, a tiny disc of polished obsidian, resting where the brain once was. Scholars think the Maya used mirrors for divination, seeing between worlds, but placing one inside a skull. That's a twist. A fringe theory, don't roll your eyes, suggests certain Maya tombs were designed as psychic conduits, amplifying spiritual visions. The kind of theory shouted at midnight on late-night radio shows. But standing here now, it doesn't feel so fringe. The air vibrates faintly, like sound just below hearing. You step back toward the sarcophagus and glance once more at the queen's remains. And you realize there are more bones in there than one skeleton should have. There are extra ribs, an additional femur, a second skull fragment wedged beneath the silk. You lean closer, heart thumping. The second skull is smaller, smoother. UNFUSED. It's a child, and it's not separate. It was buried with her, maybe even inside the same wrappings. Now the jade mask feels heavier, not a symbol of peace, but a locked door over a scream. You sit back hard against the cold wall. A beetle scuttles across your boot. Your mouth is dry. You look around again for that word, iota. It's still scratched into the wall. But now you notice more beneath it. Faint fingernail marks. Desperate ones. And on the far side of the chamber, opposite the door, another panel, smaller, hidden behind painted stucco. Almost invisible unless you're looking for it. You step toward it slowly. This isn't on any of the maps. Not in any report. You press. It shifts slightly. A hidden panel swings inward with a soft creak, revealing a passage just barely wide enough to crawl through. The air from inside is moist. Rotten. You lean your head in, and your light glints off more red glyphs. These are sharper, fresher. You swear one line was etched with a metal tool, not stone. That's when you find the second print. Barefoot, child-sized, and still wet. You crouch beside the narrow passage and just stare into it. The scent that escapes is thick, damp limestone, something organic, and beneath that, a sweetness that doesn't belong. The kind of smell that makes your stomach knot before your brain catches up. You shine your light down the tunnel. It doesn't go far. A few meters, maybe. Then a sharp turn. Someone or something crawled this way recently. You can see the streaks in the cinnabar dust. Smears where fingers dragged along the wall. One clear handprint on the floor. Small. Human. Not 1,000 years old. You pause. Take one long breath, probably your last clean one, and slide in. The stone brushes both shoulders. You inch forward on your elbows like a soldier in a war you never signed up for. It's warm in here. Too warm. And wet. The light from the main tomb fades behind you, replaced by the close. Enclosing dark. You round the corner and freeze. Another chamber. Smaller than the last. Unadorned. Just stone, dust. And a single skeleton lying on its side like it died trying to curl up. No mask. No offerings. Just bones and a necklace made from human teeth. The walls here are carved too. But not by skilled hands. Scratch marks. Thousands of them. Some shallow. Some deep. Some made by nails. Others by flint. They form spirals, slashes, and what might be glyphs but are twisted beyond reading. This is panic. Not ceremony. You crouch beside the skeleton. Something about the angle of the arms isn't right. Both wrists are twisted behind the back. You lean closer. Rope. You don't want to believe it. But it's their fragments of fibers still clinging to the bone. This person was bound. Alive. Left in the secret room. Sealed. And then the scraping begins. Not from behind. Not from ahead. From below. You drop to one knee and press your hand against the floor. Faint vibrations. As if something's moving through the stone. Something not far beneath you. You whisper, maybe just to steady yourself. It's rats, jungle rats. But rats don't sound like nails on stone. You shine your light again and notice another carving just beside the bound skeleton's head. Unlike the others, this one is clean, a series of glyphs. You recognize two of them, Chalk Child and Zybalba, the Maya underworld. You've read about this. In Maya belief, the path to Zybalba was a gauntlet of trials, rivers of blood, scorpion halls, howling demons. Death wasn't a single gate. It was a journey. The elite had maps buried with them, sometimes painted on bark paper books or carved into stone. But here, the map seems etched with desperation. That fringe theory returns. The one about tombs as conduits. One archaeologist once suggested that certain royal tombs were meant not just to preserve the dead, but to pin them like nails through shadow. The energy of rulers, their memories, and maybe even their souls were anchored to the tomb as spiritual batteries for the living. If that's true, then this chamber isn't a resting place. It's a generator. And this skeleton, part of the wiring. Historians still argue whether living sacrifices were conscious when sealed in. No records confirm it. But here you are, staring at what sure looks like a person who knew exactly what was happening. You try to back out of the tunnel, but your boot snags on something. You twist around. It's a cloth bundle, soaked. You pull it loose and unwrap it. Inside, a human face, not a real one. Clay, a mask. Unlike the others, it's painted in bright yellows and greens, the eyes stretched wide, mouth open. Mid-scream. It's not a funerary mask. It's a warning. You don't put it down. You stuff it in your pack because, of course, this is a terrible idea. But you're not leaving it here. As you back out of the chamber, you feel it again. That low, guttural hum in the stone. It's not random anymore. It's pulsing, like a heartbeat. You emerge back into the main tomb chamber, and something's changed. The cinnabar dust has shifted. Your footprints are gone, smoothed, as if someone or something swept them away while you were in the tunnel. You turn to the wall and look again at that scratched word, iota. But now, there's a second one below it. Same hand, Same desperation. Nitrogen monoxide sagas don't leave. You scan the chamber. Nothing. Just bones. Dust. Silence. But the kind that listens. You move back toward the sarcophagus. The jade mask is still there. Its expression serene. But now, in the corner of your eye, something gleams behind it. You lift the mask gently. Beneath it, tucked into the eye socket of the skull, is a tiny roll of bark paper. A codex fragment. You unfurl it. The ink is faint but legible. Drawings mostly. A woman with a serpent's tongue. Twin skulls floating over a temple. A hand reaching up from inside a stone box. You turn the page. Final panel, the same temple, but cracked open, empty. And underneath it, a single glyph. One that doesn't appear in any public Maya dictionary. Not because it's forgotten, because it's forbidden. You recognize it from museum warnings, scratched off temple walls, whispered about by tour guides who laugh nervously when asked. The glyph for a live burial. You hold that scrap of bark paper a little longer than necessary, the edges crumbling in your grip. The glyph at the bottom pulses in your mind. A live burial. The term is sanitized in most history books, neatly labeled under ritual entombment. But standing here, covered in toxic dust, breathing air that tastes like rot and limestone, you feel the horror stripped of its archaeological politeness. The jade mask stares blankly from the stone floor, where you set it. It no longer looks regal. It looks hollow. You start to piece things together because that's what you do when panic hovers, just shy of breathing down your neck. The queen in the sarcophagus wasn't alone. There were extra bones. A child's, yes, and maybe another. But the presence of that second hidden chamber, the bound skeleton, the etched plea, the mask of the scream tells you this wasn't just about death. It was about control. Historians still argue whether Maya rulers were seen as divine or merely symbolic, but either way, the rituals surrounding their burial were meticulous, layered, and often brutal. It wasn't uncommon for elite figures to be buried with retainers, sometimes still living. Chosen ones. Loved ones. People sacrifice not in spite of their importance, but because of it. To serve forever in the afterlife. But this feels different. You move around the tomb slowly, your light beam flickering now, batteries fading. Each time it dims, the shadows get bolder, licking around the corners of the chamber like they're waiting for something. There's a crack in the floor near the sarcophagus, just a hairline fracture. Easy to miss. You kneel beside it and press your hand down. Warm. That's impossible. There's no geothermal vent here. No wiring, no sun. But the stone feels like it's hiding a heartbeat. And then under your palm you feel it again. 3 slow thumps. You jerk your hand back. No, you tell yourself. It's just your own pulse echoing through your bones. Or maybe there's seismic activity no one recorded. Maybe. But then the thumping repeats. And this time, it's coming from inside the sarcophagus. You spin around and freeze. The jade beads around. The skeleton's neck are vibrating. Not dramatically. Just enough to click softly against one another. The mask you set aside begins to shift. Not roll drag. As if pulled. You inch closer. Despite every instinct in your spine screaming don't. That's when you see it. The queen's skull has moved. It's now tilted. Slightly. Toward you. There is no breeze. No rat. No seismic jolt. Just her. You shine your light directly into the empty sockets. And for a split second, just one, you swear you see moisture. You blink. Gone. Just hollow bone still. Your hands shake. You pull away, stepping backward. And your boot crunches something small. You look down. A broken jade bead, split clean in half. But it's bleeding. You kneel quickly, touching the liquid with your glove. Not paint. Not cinnabar. This is red. Wet. Real. You backpedal until your spine hits the cold wall again. This tomb is no longer silent. You can hear something now, soft breathing, maybe. The scrape of cloth. The tap 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 of something fingernail-sized against stone. It's not loud. That makes it worse. In a surge of misplaced logic, you decide to reopen the tunnel, the one with the bound skeleton. You don't know why. Maybe to recheck the carvings. Maybe to prove to yourself that you're just tired and your brain is fabricating sounds, but the entrance is gone. Not sealed. Just gone. The panel smooth again. Seamless. Like it was never opened at all. You run your hands over it in disbelief. You were just there. You still smell the wet stone on your clothes. You knock once, just to be sure. A knock answers. 3 beats. Then silence. You run. You don't remember doing it. But suddenly you're halfway up the sealed staircase again. You shine your light back down into the tomb one last time, just to be sure. The queen's skeleton is sitting up. You don't scream. You can't. Your throat has gone dry. You scramble up the steps. The walls closing in tighter with every heartbeat. And Then the light dies. Click. Gone. You're plunged into blackness so thick it feels wet in your lungs. You fumble for your backup flashlight, slap it once, twice, nothing. Behind you, faint footsteps echo on the stairs. Not heavy. Bare. Tiny. Like a child. You press your back to the wall and listen. One beat, two. Then they stop. You whisper, "Who's there?" A child's voice answers, but not in any language you understand. You remember a fringe hypothesis you once read it to a theory that Maya tombs weren't just built for the dead but by them, that elite rulers dictated the construction of their own final resting places, including booby traps, misdirection, and rituals designed not to protect their bodies, but to trap their souls, because some souls, they said, should never leave. You grip the stone, press your ear to it, and pray you're wrong, because beneath the surface, you hear it again. Scraping. This time, not faint, not below. Right behind the wall, trying to get out. You don't move, you barely breathe. Your back is pressed so hard against the stone that it might leave an imprint. The wall is cold against your spine, but not everywhere. One patch, right behind your shoulder blade, is warmer than the rest, almost feverish. You slide away from it, inch by inch, without turning around. The scraping sound has stopped, for now. You reach into your bag and find your spare headlamp. Fumble, click. It flickers once, then flares on. Weak light, but enough. You sweep it across the stairwell, heart thudding, lungs tight, nothing. No figure, no child, no open crib behind you, but the floor where you'd stood, covered now in footprints, bare, small, and in cinnabar dust that wasn't there before. You force yourself up the final steps and spill back into the temple chamber above. The air hits your face like a bucket of warm soup, stale, but somehow relieving. You're shaking, and for a long second, all you can do is sit on the cracked stone floor, blinking at the ceiling painted with jaguars, stars, and snakes. You whisper, out loud like someone might answer, "What did they do down there?" There's no response. But that's when you remember something. One of the fringe anthropologists who published exactly one paper before vanishing into a rainforest expedition claimed that a few Maya queens were not buried in death, but installed, like fixtures, not entombed, but embedded, part of the architecture of power itself. Guardians, wards, anchors for something beneath. You realize something else, too. The queen's name never showed up in the stele outside the temple. Her dynasty is unlisted. Her children, if any, go unnamed. No victories carved, no enemies vanquished. She wasn't meant to be remembered. She was meant to be forgotten. Burial by erasure. You stagger toward the outer edge of the chamber. The sun is lowering, its light bleeding gold through the broken stones. You should leave. You need to leave. But something draws you back just once more. One last look. You turn back to the stairwell and stop. There, beside the opening, is a fresh offering bowl. You swear it wasn't there before. Inside, a single tooth, filed to a point, set in a mound of red powder. And beside the bowl, scratched hastily into the stone wall, a set of glyphs. You squint at them, then freeze. The first one is the same forbidden glyph from the codex scrap, a live burial. The second is simpler. You don't need a degree to read it. It's your name. The wind changes, just slightly, enough to carry a whisper into your ear. Not words, just the shape of breath. Close, curious, you back away fast now, stumbling into the light outside. The jungle is buzzing, humid and alive. The stone temple glows like old gold behind you. You tell yourself it's over. You tell yourself you made it out. But later, much later, you realize something. The mask, the one of the screaming face you stuffed into your pack, it's missing, gone. Not fallen out, just not there anymore. You'll spend nights wondering if you left it behind, and deeper nights wondering if something else took it back. Because if she was never supposed to leave that tomb, neither was anything buried with her. Now, let's just breathe for a moment. You're out of the jungle, away from stone staircases and sealed sarcophagi and queens with more unfinished business than a haunted mansion. You're back in your own room, tucked under your blanket. There's no dust here, no whispers beneath your floorboards, no little footprints leading away from the shadows. The Maya queen's tomb is far, far away now, buried deep under centuries of moss and secrets, and cinnabar that hopefully no one else will ever disturb. The staircase is sealed again. The glyphs have faded. The codex fragment crumbles to dust. Let it. The night air around you is soft now. Your room hums with quiet things, maybe a fan, a distant car, a creaky pipe, mundane sounds, living sounds, and that warmth you feel isn't a haunted stone wall anymore. It's just your blanket, your breath. You made it through. Even if your name did end up on the tomb wall, it's probably just a coincidence. Probably. Let your limbs relax. Let the jungle fade. The red does settle. The only scraping you'll hear tonight is the sound of your mind tucking everything away, folding it up, closing the lid. No footsteps, no glyphs. Just stillness and sleep.